Okay, so hey guys, so today's video is going to be a review, swatching, and comparison video on the brand new Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I know this has been circulating the internet like for the past couple of weeks already, and people have been making review videos left and right, but I thought I would make mine a little bit different and tell you guys which Naked palette is my favorite and tell you guys obviously my full thoughts on this palette. If I do feel like I'm a little bit delayed, I'm sorry. It's pretty late at night. It's like 11:15 at night. I really wasn't planning on filming this review this late, but I ended up getting in a conversation with my mom for like 2 hours after my boyfriend left. Like an hour and a half. So it's like 11:15. But again, review videos don't take very long to film. So yeah, this is what the palette looks like, and obviously it's from Urban Decay. I've been testing this out like crazy the past couple of weeks, and I've gotten to wear every single shade in this palette, so now I can tell you guys my full thoughts. So I don't really have the full outer packaging for the palette, but yeah, we're just going to go with that because like I said in my haul video when I did tell you guys that I picked this up, my mom accidentally threw out the other packaging because it was kind of like crushed a little bit and I was supposed to fix it again, but then she ended up throwing it out, so it was pretty much damaged. So I did keep the outer sleeve. So at first sight, it does say the Urban Decay, the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. And then it has a swatching of all of the colors on the front. It's a little bit different than like the outer packaging of like the regular Naked palettes where like they just have the like swatches of them on the bottom. And I'm going to be comparing them and telling you guys which one is my favorite and which one is my least favorite. I think you guys pretty much know that already, but and then on the back of this, you have the brush and then you have all of the shade names on the back, but it just tells you the brush that it comes with. It says, Naked heats up. Get lit with 12 all new, can't live without amber-hued neutrals, including warm browns, burnt oranges, and rich siennas. From a super smooth red-brown matte and a glimmering copper to a deep, shifty bronze, this palette has everything you need to create sultry daytime looks, intensely smoky nighttime looks, and everything in between. So when you slide the palette open, it reveals the palette, and first off, the packaging is so amazing. I love it. It's supposed to resemble a matchbox. So it says Naked Urban Decay Heat Palette, and this is what the packaging looks like. And then on the back, it just has all of the like information and where it's made and everything like that. So love the packaging. This is probably my favorite packaging of any Naked palette. I really like how it's more slender. It has a completely different design from the last two palettes because those ones were pretty similar. And now this one has the hard packaging. I'm just going to show you guys really quickly. You guys know what the outer packaging looks like for the Naked palettes. But I'm not going to spend too much time on these. I'm just going to tell you guys and show you what they look like really quickly. Everybody knows what these look like, but the difference between these palettes is that the first palette obviously had the velour packaging and it had the 12 shades inside like this with a mirror. And then the second one they changed it to the plastic packaging and it says Naked 2 on it. And then it has the shades in here with the mirror again. And then the third one obviously had the same type of packaging, but it had more of that ridge type of plastic. And then on the inside, it reveals all of the colors with the mirror as well. So this one is a little bit different because it kind of goes back to the old school vibes, actually. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit similar because it has more of that boxy kind of packaging. So I think that's a little bit cute. And then when you open it, obviously it reveals the colors, and this is what the 12 gorgeous shades look like. They all come with that same brush. So the brush I actually have not used yet because I wanted to save it for the review. It is a little bit different than actually I think it's the same brush that they've always had. It has like a more finer tip one to like do like under eye smudging and stuff like that, and like for lid shades. And then for this one, this is like your crease brush. I love these brushes in the Urban Decay palettes. They're so super soft and they really do a good job of doing your crease work and stuff. They're really solid brushes. So yeah, in the palette, obviously you have the mirror. It's a really nice mirror actually, but I have not been able to figure out on how to get the actual film off of here. I don't know why. And then it reveals the 12 colors. So let's go through all of them, shall we? So it goes from lightest to darkest. So first we have Ounce, Chaser, Sauced, Low Blow, Lumbre, He Devil, Dirty Talk, Scorched, Cayenne, and Fuego, Ashes, and Ember. So I'm going to swatch all of them for you first, and then we will get into the review. I feel like that's just a lot easier to do first. So we're going to swatch Ounce first, and I'm kind of doing like a pretty generous swatch. Like I'm kind of going like this in the palette. So I'll show you a live swatch for the second one. So this first shade is called Ounce, and it's a really gorgeous brow bone and inner corner highlight. I've been using it on my brow bone every time I use this palette. I'm going to try and give a pretty generous swatch because, again, my skin is so pale that you can't really see these colors, so I try to give them a little bit more generous swatches. But look how pretty that is. It's just a really pretty, reflective, like white gold kind of color. It has a little bit of glitter and metallicness in it. It's not really completely matte, so it's like a white ivory, like kind of satin finish kind of color. It's so pretty. I use it on my brow bone every time I use this palette. Then the second shade is called Chaser. This one I'm just going to swatch like this. I'll just show you really quickly. I'm kind of going like this in the palette. And this one is called Chaser. And this one is a little bit darker than the Ounce shade. It's more of like an ivory, like light, very light ivory shade. Not ivory, like light brown, like very light brown. And I'm trying to give these more generous swatches because, again, I have pale skin. So I'm trying to really show you like what they look like. This swatch does not do it justice for this Chaser shade because it's a really gorgeous transition shade. I'm going to like be raving about every single shade already, but yeah, that basically spoils it. But at the same time, like, you can swatch eyeshadows and they can still look really pretty swatched, but you have to judge how they perform on the eyes. But honestly, this is a really gorgeous transition shade. It comes off much more pigmented on the actual crease than it does like actually swatching it. It's really pretty. So that is the shade Chaser. Again, you're not really going to be able to see it. I'm sorry for my pale ass skin. Okay, then the next shade is called Sauce, and you should be able to see this one a little bit better. This one is just a next step down from the Chaser shade. It's more of like a medium toned brown, like light brown shade, and that's what it looks like. And I'm going to swatch it. Oh my god, so pretty. And this one, as you can see, it's very pigmented. Again, they swatch very silky and very nice. This one I use a lot on the, just to define the crease more. Well, actually, I use it more as my crease shade. I use it over my transition shade usually. So I usually use that, and I'll tell you guys what I'm wearing on my eyes today. But again, this is very super smooth when you swatch it, and I like using it in my crease a lot. And it's really pretty on the lower lash line as well. So that one is called Sauced. Then the next shade is called Low Blow. And now we're getting more into like the more pigmented colors. This one is more of like a camel toned brown shade. And then it's like basically one swatch on my finger. I will live swatch one of them for you just to show you guys. Like I'll live swatch one of the mattes and I'll live swatch one of the shimmers. I feel like I don't have to do that where I have to constantly live swatch because I don't edit my videos. So you guys basically see me like dipping it in and showing you guys what it looks like exactly on my hand. So that's what the Low Blow shade looks like. It's very pigmented, and I use it a lot on my crease here or on my outer corners. Again, a really beautiful shade. These mattes are so smooth, you guys. You have no idea. Basically, again, spoiling it for you. Okay, now we're going to get into the first shimmery shade in the palette, and this one is called Lumbre. I'm probably totally butchering that name, but I'm going to live swatch this one for you guys, so I'm dipping my finger in right now. Let's get a little bit more on my hand. On my finger. And that one is called Lumbre. It's a really gorgeous, like, reddish, no, not reddish, orangey yellow gold shade. And I'm going to swatch it over here. And that one is called Lumbre. It has a really gorgeous, like, duochrome, reddish, why do I keep on saying reddish? Orangish gold shift to it. And that's what I noticed about a lot of the shimmers in this palette is that they kind of have a dual chrome shift to them. And I was like, oh, that's really different from the Naked palettes. I really love that because it makes it different from like other warm palettes. Like I feel like this palette is not like that cliche, you know? We'll get into that after I finish the swatches. Let's just finish the swatches, Kaylin. Okay. The next one is called He Devil. This is one of my favorite shades, and this one is a really beautiful, like, medium tone orangey, um, like, warm shade. I'm, again, like, stressed out about how I explain these shades to you because I'm, like, such a dumbass. Look how gorgeous that shade is. It's so pigmented. Like, these are so freaking pigmented, you guys. Like, honestly, like, one swipe pigment. They're really beautiful. So that one is called He Devil. It reminds me of, like, Makeup Geek's Cocoa Bear. Okay, then the next one is a really gorgeous shimmery shade. And this shade is called Dirty Talk. And you really don't need more than, like, 1 or 2 swipes of this because it's so pigmented. And this one's more of, like, literally He Devil, but in a shimmery form. And it's a little bit lighter. So it's really gorgeous. It's kind of in that same, oh my god, it's so smooth. And that one is called Dirty Talk right there. Again, really pretty shade. Sorry if I start, like, my face is falling. It's like a rush of tiredness. Like, I feel like I have to, like, shut down and take my makeup off in, like, a half hour because I have to get up early again tomorrow at, like, 9:30. I had to get up at 9:30 today, and I have to get up at 9:30 tomorrow. So this one is a really gorgeous, like, shimmery red shade. It's so pretty. Okay, then the next one I think is my favorite shimmery shade in the palette, and this one is called Scorch. Look how pretty that is. It's a really gorgeous, like, shimmery, like, brownish shimmery shade. A copper, like a coppery shade, and that's what it looks like right there. Oh, so pretty. And that one is called Scorched right there. I keep on forgetting to live swatch these for you guys, but literally, I'm like barely touching my hand with some of these shimmers. I'll do this one again and I'll swatch it like up here. So literally, like I just dipped it, and now I'm just swatching it once, and that's it. That's one swipe on my hand. That's the same shade called Scorched. Like, they were not playing with the pigment of this palette. Like, if they wanted to be the palette of the summer, they basically did it with the pigment. Okay, then the next shade is called Cayenne. This one is, again, pretty smooth when you touch it. And this one is more of like your typical darker, like, brown shade. This one reminds me a lot of Anastasia's Sienna, and they did say, like, there's a lot of warm siennas in this palette, which is very pretty and really nice for me because I really love those kind of shades. So that one is called Cayenne. I don't know if I actually said the name. It's called Cayenne. And that one is right there. And that one is called Cayenne. Really pretty on the outer corners. Obviously, the shimmery shades are all, like, lid shades. And then, like, He Devil, I use a lot on my outer corners as well. But this shade, Cayenne, I really like using on my outer corners, too. There's a lot of good outer corner options in this palette, at least like 4, and they're really pretty on your lower lash line as well. Okay, 3 more. My nose is like running for some reason. The next one is called En Fuego, and this is the only one that I find that is like rough to the touch, but it still swatches really nice and pigmented. So this one is called En Fuego. This one's more of like a darker matte brown, and I'm going to swatch it for you guys. And that one is right there. That one is En Fuego. Really gorgeous, deep, chocolatey kind of brown. It kind of swatches a little bit more chocolatey than it is in the pan. But as you can see, when I dip my finger in that one, it's a little bit more rougher to the actual, like, that it looks in the actual pan than the other shades do. Okay, 2 more. The next one is called Ashes, and this one's like a deep brown plum kind of shade. It's a really pretty. And this one is called Ashes right here. And then I'm going to swatch it. I'm just going to do it right here. And that one is called Ashes right there. I'm kind of going like in between like my hands. Like these are not all the rows like in order, but you get my drift. So this one is called Ashes right here. Really gorgeous for like smoking out the lower lash line, the outer corners. And then the last one is gorgeous. This one is called Ember. This is the one that I finally got to wear on my lid today, and this was like the last shade that I had to wear. And this one I'm going to swatch for you. Of course, my boyfriend's texting me while I'm doing this, but I just want to get through the last swatch before I text him back. Like, this is like barely touching it. I did 3 passes, but I didn't really have to. I just really wanted to get a good swatch for you guys. And this one is a really gorgeous brown duochrome shade. It's so pretty. Oh my god, it's so pigmented. This one is called Ember right there. Look how pretty that is. It's like, do you see that duochrome shift to it? That's why I really appreciate this palette, because at first glance, you're gonna be like, oh, it's like basic as F. But then when you actually swatch them, they have a lot more light to them than you actually think. I was like, oh, Urban Decay put some duochrome shift in there? Like, really? Like, okay, I see you. Like, I see you, Urban Decay. I do. So these are all of the swatches right here. So we have Ounce, Chaser, Sauced, Low Blow, Lumbre, He Devil, Dirty Talk, Scorched, Cayenne, and Fuego, Ashes, and Ember. Oh my god, I could swatch this palette all day. Look how pretty. Okay, so now to get into the review part of this video, just give me 1 second. Okay, so now to get into my review of the palette. If you didn't already figure it out, I pretty much love this palette. I think that this palette is just as good as my other Naked palettes. It might be my new favorite. I'm not really sure yet. I have to go back and actually use my Naked palettes again, because since I've been testing out this one so much and I've been using so many of my newer palettes, I haven't really been able to show love to my older palettes. Like, I've been using this palette a shit ton. Like, I've used this palette at least 7 or 8 times already since I've gotten it. So I've used it a lot. So I just want to tell you guys what I'm wearing on my eyes today. So first, I'm wearing Chaser as a transition shade. Then I put Sauced on as my crease shade. Then I put Low Blow in the crease to darken it up more. And then I decided to smoke it out, and I used Ashes on the outer corners. And then for the lid, I used Ember. And it's so gorgeous because it's like such a pretty duochrome. Also, I've had my eyeshadow on for about 12 hours because I've had my makeup on since 9:30 this morning, and it's like 11:30 at night. I think it held up pretty damn well. That's what I would say. I think it held up pretty damn well. And I'm a little bit delusional because I'm a little bit tired. And then for my brow bone, I used Ounce. And then for my lower lash line, I just smudged Low Blow on the lower lash line because I didn't really have any more time to smudge anything else because I was like running late. Because I had to go to a car appointment this morning. And then for the inner corners, I did use Ounce, but I wanted to darken it up just a little bit more, so I did just pop on a little bit of MAC's Shroom on the outer corners. So, my overall thoughts of this palette is, yes, I love this palette. I think that it's something very different for Urban Decay. Is it something that's been done before? Yes. Is it something that I feel like is different for Urban Decay? Yes, because Urban Decay has never done anything like this before. Maybe they have in the past, but I don't know anything about that. And what I'm really happy about in this palette is that they didn't repeat anything. Like, thank freaking God. And for some reason, the only palette that I don't have from the Naked collection that are like the bigger palettes are, and I wasn't going to bring the Naked Basics palette into this because that's different. That's like all matte. And you guys know I love that palette. I just really wanted to compare it to the actual Naked palettes. Like the Naked Basics, I only have the Naked Basics palette. So the Naked Ultimate Basics palette. I don't have the 2 smaller ones because they're just not necessary for me. And then, I don't have the Naked Smoky palette because I really wasn't a fan of that one, but I am going to be comparing it to the first 3 Naked palettes, like I said before. But yes, I do love this palette. I think it's very easy to create a look with this, and I feel like that's what Urban Decay really was going for. But you have some beautiful shades in this palette that does make it a little bit more different than other palettes. Like, I really love that they threw a matte purpley brown in this palette that already makes it a little bit different, and then they threw in this really gorgeous brown duochrome shade. I was like, okay. And then you have these gorgeous shimmery shades that it's like, the pigment is so beautiful. The only shade, and then the mattes blend gorgeously. The matte formula of Urban Decay is really good. I feel like this matte formula is even better. I feel like these mattes blend out in like 2 seconds. They're really nice. They're not too pigmented, but they're pigmented enough that you can blend them out. And it's like really easy to blend them out. I feel like it takes no work at all to blend the mattes out, and that's really good. They remind me of like Makeup Geek quality, so that's really good. The only shade There's only one shade that I'm disappointed in this palette. I love all of the shades except for this shade called Lumbre. And the reason why is because I felt like when I applied it to my lid, it didn't really do anything. Hence, I think I've only used the shade on my lid maybe once or twice. I think I've used it twice. And each time I've used it, I've had to amp it up with like one of the other shades. Like I think I used this shade in combination with this shade Dirty Talk. And I felt like I had to go over it with this shade. And these two shades were gorgeous on the lid. Like these are so pigmented and they really do show up like this gorgeous on your lid. Like they are not playing with that pigment. And as you can see, that shade Lumbre, which is right there, it's a little bit more sheerer than the other shades swatch. Like this one, just put the palette down. This one is Dirty Talk, this one is Scorched, and this one is Ember. I just felt like that this one swatched a little bit more sheerly. Like you can kind of see that it's not as pigmented as the other ones. That was the only thing I was disappointed about. And that was the first shade that I was drawn to in the palette to use. And I felt like I was kind of disappointed by it. I was like, is this how all the shimmer shades are going to be? They're just going to swatch really pretty and then they're going to be like really dull and like not that pigmented on the lids? No. That's honestly the only dud in this palette. And the only other thing that I wish that it had, because like I said, they blend beautifully. They're really easy to apply. They last really long. They're that beautiful Urban Decay quality that I was expecting. I love Urban Decay's eyeshadows. I think they make amazing quality eyeshadows. They're my favorite high-end brand. You guys know that. I wish that they had another shimmery inner corner highlight in this palette. I feel like they could have done without maybe one of the shades, but at the same time, it's like I really love all of the other shades that it's like, which shade would I take out to actually make up for that? Maybe I would take out Lumbre because I don't like it that much. I just really wish this had better pigment. Like, it really annoys me. Like, this shade is so gorgeous, and I just feel like it didn't come out the same way on the actual eyes. And yeah, it's really pretty when you swatch it, but I just, again, don't feel like it has that amped up kind of look that the other shades do. So yes, I do love this palette. I do think it's worth it. Obviously, you guys can find Urban Decay on Sephora.com, Macy's.com, Ulta.com, UrbanDecay.com. Urban Decay is found everywhere, and it retails for, I believe, $49. I did get it full price on UrbanDecay.com. I didn't pay shipping for it because I did buy it on the pre-launch day on UrbanDecay.com. It got to me in about 4 days. I ordered it that day, and I think it took about 5 business days. It took from like that day, Tuesday, till like that Monday. So yeah, it took a little while, but I knew that they were going to be having like a lot of people order the palette that I was like not that concerned about getting it right away. And plus I had so many eyeshadows that I already ordered. I was like, it's not a big deal if it takes a little while to get to me. Alright, sorry, I just needed a little bit of water. My throat's a little bit dry. Let me just put this away really quick. Oh, damn. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend this. If you have something similar in your collection and you're not a makeup hoarder like me, I would say probably pass on it. But if you are looking for something that is like going to be something that you grab for constantly in the summertime, because I feel like I'm not going to be able to put this palette down, I would go for it. And also if you're a Urban Decay collector and a Naked collector, I think it is a great addition to your collection. I think it's a solid addition to your collection. I think it's an amazing palette. I just really love it. I think it's really great, and I think it's a really smart selling point for them to come out with such a warm palette for the summertime, because they've never done that before. So yes, it is different for Urban Decay. If you have something similar, I would say swatch it first, determine what you want to do. I would say go for it though, because I really love it. So yeah, that's it about this palette. And now we're just going to jump into the comparisons really quickly. So, for the first palette, obviously you guys know that the shades were, this is a cult classic palette. It really is. And it really does have a really gorgeous variety of colors. And this one has a lot more shimmery shades than most of the other palettes do. Let me just compare it to the other one really quickly, the Naked palette. The first two Naked palettes have a lot of shimmery shades. The Naked palette has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shimmery shades. The Naked 2 palette has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 shimmery shades. And then the Naked 3 palette has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the Naked Heat palette actually has the least amount of shimmery shades, which I did not know that. That's a little bit crazy, actually. They really, I think they concentrated more on this being like a smoky, warm palette. So I think that's why they wanted to put more, like darker shades in it. But then they also really wanted to put in shades that you could use with all of these other shimmery shades. And I think that they laid it out really smartly that way, to do that. But it's really surprising that there's only 4 shimmery shades in the palette. I didn't know that at all. So yeah, the first one obviously has the velvet packaging. And then these are the 12 shades. We have Virgin, Sin, Naked, Sidecar, Buck, Half-Baked, Smog, Dark Horse, Toasted, Hustle, Creep, and Gunmetal. I absolutely adore this palette. I think that it is so worth the hype. It is beautiful. If you are looking for a basic palette, I would say this is a really good option. But I would also say maybe start out with like the Naked Basics palette and then maybe pick out like a couple of single shadows from Urban Decay and just like really get your skills up more, and then I would say get this palette. But at the same time, you could build your skills up with this as well because you have so many different options with this, and you could really just experiment with your look with these eyeshadows. They're just such good quality. They're all super pigmented. Like, not one shade is not pigmented in this palette. I don't think I've actually ever sat down and swatched all of them to see which one's better pigmented. But I would have to say, in comparison to the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palettes, the Naked palettes are a lot more solid in pigmentation, like 100%. And I think I've actually found myself more in love with the Naked palettes than I have been with the Too Faced palettes for a long time now. Because, like I said, Urban Decay moved up from being my favorite brand than Too Faced, because Too Faced, you know, has done a lot of shady stuff lately and I'm just like not about that life. But I just want to just watch like Sidecar. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's one swipe. Like, it's so gorgeous. And then you have Smog, which is another cult classic shade. Beautiful. Like, these are one swipe, guys. One swipe. And then Toasted is really beautiful. It's one of my favorite shades in the palette. It's a really gorgeous pink shade. Like, you really can't go wrong with this palette. And I would say if you were a Naked lover, I would go for this one and I would go for this one. I'm just saying right now, I think these would be your more essential palettes. But at the same time, I find the Naked 3 palette to be an essential as well because the Naked 3 is so different. But I would say if you would go for more like everyday smoky looks, soft romantic looks, you can just use this shade with the gold. With these 2 shades, actually. You can use any of these shades to create romantic looks. You can also use these 2 shades to create some warm looks with these 2 shades. Like, these 2 mattes work with everything in this palette. And that's why it's such a smartly laid out palette. Because you can use those 2 shades for anything. Like, these are the only 2 mattes. That's insane. And then in comparison to the Naked 2 palette, I feel like this one was a little bit more poorly laid out. As you guys know, the Naked 2 palette is my least favorite palette, but I'm not saying that the pigmentation is not there. all of these shadows are pigmented, dude. They're all pigmented. So we have Foxy, Half Baked, Booty Call, Chopper, Tease, Snakebite, Suspect, Pistol, Verve, Why You Don't Know, Why Decay, Busted, and Blackout. And again, all of these are beautiful. I've used all of these shades. I've used all of the shades in all of the Naked palettes. And I would live on Suspect, Pistol, and Verve because they're really gorgeous lid shades for when you want to do like silver eyes and stuff like that. This shade, Snakebite, is gorgeous. Why You Don't Know is probably my favorite shade in the palette. It's really beautiful. But what annoyed me is that they repeated the Half-Baked shade in this palette. I was like, really, Urban Decay? You could have replaced it with like another like matte brown. You could have just replaced it with like a cool tone matte brown. And the only matte in this palette is Tease. And I'm just like, you really didn't need to put Half-Baked in this palette. You could have put another matte in this palette. And honestly, I felt like that would have been more of a reason for me to grab this palette. I'm not saying that I haven't used these palettes equally. Like, I probably have used this one more than this one now because I love the Naked palette. And what's funny is that the Naked palette was the last one that I added to my collection. I went backwards in the order that I actually got the Naked palettes. I got the Naked 3 first, then I got the Naked 2, and then I got the Naked 1. And I love the Naked 1, like, so much. The Naked 1's probably my favorite. So, for this, yes, I do wish that they put more of matte shades in here. But the shades are beautiful. The lid shades are gorgeous. Like, this is You Don't Know. Come on, really pretty. I'm going to swatch it one more time. Like, the pigmentation's there. I'm not saying the pigmentation isn't there. They're all really beautiful. This Pistol shade, like, Suspect. I love all of these shades for, like, silver looks. They're beautiful. They're Urban Decay quality. You're not going to get a bad eyeshadow from Urban Decay. Honestly, Urban Decay makes amazing quality eyeshadows. And they're one of my favorite brands of eyeshadows. Like, they're probably my favorite brand of eyeshadows that are high-end now in replacement of Too Faced. So, I really do love them. I'm a little bit biased, but at the same time, I will tell you that I don't feel like I can create as many looks with this palette as I would want to because there's just not enough matte shades in here for me. It's crazy how many lid shades there are. It's kind of insane how many lid shades there are, but I feel like they made this more as like more of the going out palette. I mean, but you could do a lot of going out palettes, going out looks with this palette because there's such a versatility of colors in here. So I'm not going to go on and on about them and review all of them, but I'm just telling you my thoughts that I would go for the Naked palette over the Naked 2 palette because that's just my opinion. I really love the Naked palette. And that's a lot of people's opinion too, is that they would go for this one over the Naked 2. And then of course, we have the Naked 3. And there are a lot of people that are lovers of the first two palettes and not of this one because this one is a lot more different than the first two. But it's like, how many times can you make the same type of palette? And you know, I thought this palette was so gorgeous. This one is definitely my most used Naked palette because this was my first neutral high-end palette that I got from my boyfriend like 3 years ago. And I would use it every day. And I really feel like it's really crazy how many palettes I have now. This is like very nostalgic for me, this palette, because this was my first palette that really got me into makeup collecting, really got me into wearing neutral shades every day, because all I used to wear was not Makeup Geek, MAC single shadows, and all I had was this other Too Faced palette. Like, I never knew how to shop for makeup in Sephora, and then I finally, you know, discovered these Naked palettes. I was like, where have I been? I was like, I need to get these, because they're so beautiful. And this one is a lot more of like my vibe. I love romantic pink eye looks. I live for them. And I haven't done them very often for a little while. I mean, I really only do them when I wear like the ColourPop satin shadows or shimmery shadows on my lid. Let's just go through the shades really quick. Why can't I hold this right now? So we have Strange, Dust, Burnout, Limit, Buzz, Trick, Nooner, Liar, Factory, Mugshot, Dark Side, and Blackheart. And I just really lived in this palette. I really like how it has a couple of matte shades in this. It definitely had more matte shades than the first two. I mean, it only has one more of a matte shade in here than the first one. It has Strange, Limit, and Nooner, but I use Limit and Nooner like with everything in this palette. And there's just really gorgeous lid shades. I would use Dust, Burnout, Buzz, Trick, Liar Factory, Mugshot all the time on my lid. But the only thing I would say about this palette is that the pigmentation is a little bit less strong than the first two. I do think that the Naked 2 palette is more pigmented, and the first palette is definitely the best pigmented one for me. And then probably the Naked Heat palette. Yeah, definitely. This one is more like on the drier side. Like Buzz is not very pigmented. I mean, when I just swatched it though. When you swatch it, it's really gorgeous. Oh my god, look at that. Look how pretty. That's definitely my favorite shade. Like, definitely my favorite shade. And then we have Burnout, which is gorgeous. Oh, they're so pretty. So pretty, you guys. Let me just watch one of the mattes. Like, it's definitely my favorite. It's probably a little bit dried out now. Look how pretty that is. That's Nooner. So gorgeous. I probably should get rid of it at some point, but I will never get rid of this because it's so nostalgic for me. But this one is definitely the most different for me because it has all the romantic shades, and I felt like this one was actually the easiest everyday appropriate eyeshadow palette. But you have these two eyeshadows too that you can smoke out everything. Like, they really do lay out their palettes really smartly, and you really can have like an easy access to like all of the colors and really use all of the colors. So this one, yes, I love it. So I would say for me, I would rank them, I would still rank the Naked palette #1 because I freaking love it. But I am very torn as to ranking this as #2 because it's kind of like #1 for me as well. So yes, I love the Naked and the Naked 3 palette. You guys know that already. Because this one is it's just so pretty and romantic. But these are both such different palettes that it's like kind of like comparing like the sun to the moon. Like, but at least I'm giving you like a wide option of, but they're still my favorites. So whichever one you want to go for, if you're more of like someone that needs something for everything, I would go for this one. If you want something more everyday appropriate and something that's more romantic, and you love pink shades, I would go for the Naked 3 palette. So then I would see the Naked Heat palette. But this one is really beautiful. This one is definitely different than the Naked 3 palette. I would say it's like, if you would want to compare them, I would say it's the most different to the Naked 3 palette. This is beautiful, warm tones, beautiful for the summertime. I probably want to end up using this in the wintertime, but the summertime I'm going to use the crap out of it. And then I would say the Naked 2 palette. You guys know I don't love this palette as much because, like I said, you don't really have as many crease options. It's kind of a little bit, you know, intimidating because I'm like, you know, what am I supposed to do with these lid shades? Like, there's too many lid shades in the palette. They're all gorgeous, but again, they could have just replaced Half Baked with another matte, and I feel like that would have made the palette a lot more accessible. And that's it, you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, CW819, and my Twitter is PokerFace819, and my Snapchat is PokerFace819, and let me know if you guys have any more questions down below. And thanks, guys. Bye!